Now at 6 o'clock, GMTV.
Michael Jackson now faces investigation over his relationships with children as a top lawyer in America files a complaint against him. Good morning, this is the News Hour on GMTV.
Yes, it's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 5th of February.
As authorities in the United States prepare to watch the controversial ITV documentary on Michael Jackson, we cross live to Los Angeles in a moment for the latest.
The US says it will unveil compelling evidence today that Iraq is hiding banned weapons from UN weapons inspectors, but will it prove to be the elusive smoking gun?
And we bring you the truth behind the asylum headlines, why one local community has put its money where its mouth is to support a family seeking refuge here in Britain.
And this morning we're upping sticks to Australia, where the sun always shines, of course, but it shines for us every day with Claire. Good morning, darling.
Good morning, John. I presume Penny wrote that link.
No, I didn't.
No, it was right from the heart.
Oh,
yeah.
I love working on this programme.
Yes.
Good morning. Another wintry day today, but the good news is it's turning milder tomorrow, and that's because cloud, rain, sleet and snow is moving in, but the sleet and snow will clear and eventually temperatures will rise. So today it's going to be bright and crisp and icy. Tomorrow turning damp from the west with perhaps some patchy rain, but as I said, on the leading edge of the front coming in from the west, you could actually see a little bit of snow for a time. Some sunshine today, frosty as well. Watch out for icy stretches. I'll give you more details in around 25 minutes. Penny.
Claire. A top US lawyer has told GMTV she's filed a complaint against Michael Jackson after the star admitted that children slept in his bed. Authorities in the States say they'll watch the controversial ITV documentary closely when it's screened there tomorrow night. Well, Jackie Brambles is in Los Angeles. Jackie, the programme has caused huge debate here. What about there?
Well, it hasn't yet aired over here, Penny. In fact, it's going to be tomorrow night that I would think many Americans are going to be glued to their TV set. There's certainly been a lot of hype ever since ABC Network bought that programme from ITV for, I think, £3.5 million, and there's promotions all over the networks.
From London to LA, the world is buzzing about that jaw-dropping Jacko documentary on Britain's ITV. As Doug Bruckner reports, the special, airing here on ABC, has the King of Pop spilling secrets about everything, from his intimate experience with a star to his sleepovers with kids.
Perhaps something that Michael Jackson didn't give any thought to was exactly what kinds of cans of worms this documentary would open up. Well, over here, it looks like they're going to be very much of a legal nature, because there is a lawyer here in Los Angeles who has locked horns before with Michael Jackson. Many years ago, when she initially represented the young teenager back, I think it was in '91, who was alleging charges of sexual molestation against Michael Jackson. That never went to court, and it was settled out of court for well over $20 million. And also this lawyer, Gloria Allred, a civil rights lawyer, filed a complaint with the Child Protection Services in Santa Barbara County, where Jackson lives, just a few weeks ago after the baby dangling incident in Berlin. She has read a transcript, word for word, of the program, of the documentary that you've all seen, and this is what she's got in mind.
I have sent the transcript of the interview on the British documentary to the Children's Services Department and asked them to interview the children and also to do the needed investigation of Mr. Jackson and what his activities with children have been at Neverland.
Gloria Allred. Well, how do you think the Americans will react to this documentary then tomorrow night?
I mean, there's going to be absolute fascination over here as there was there, and perhaps some intrigue as to why he didn't choose to speak to an American interviewer, and it was all done with a Brit. Also, though, I think what's going to be even more interesting, I have to say, is that the legal repercussions for Michael Jackson, or certainly the investigations that will undoubtedly be spurred by this documentary, I think are going to become much more public fascination than the documentary itself.
Jackie, thanks very much, and we'll have more on that Jackson documentary in half an hour's time.
Right now, the rest of the news with Kate. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning. Thanks very much indeed. Good morning to you. Iraqi President Saddam Hussein has denied his regime has any links with the al-Qaeda terrorist network, heightening pressure on America's Secretary of State today. Colin Powell is due to address the UN Security Council, hoping to convince sceptical allies of the need for war. Rachel Harrison is in New York. What's Colin Powell expected to say, do we think, Rachel?
Yes, good morning, Kate. Well, he's expected to attack on 3 fronts. He will try to provide evidence to show that Saddam Hussein is stockpiling weapons of mass destruction, that he's obstructing the work of the UN weapons inspectors and does have the all-important links with terror organisations. Now, he'll produce photographs shown for the first time. Now, these are thought to include Iraqis driving trucks filled with weapons away from bases that the inspectors are due to visit. He will also play audio tapes that will be played out in Arabic and translated for the Security Council. And he says these will prove that Saddam Hussein is not only lying to the US, but to the rest of the world as well. It will last 90 minutes. It will be the most important speech he's probably done in his career. Now, no one's in any doubt, really, that he has to prove that Saddam is in breach of the UN resolution. But what he's got to try and do, and this is the all-important thing, he has to try and prove to the Security Council that they need to go to war, and more importantly, need to go to war now. And everyone's asking, has he got enough evidence? We'll find out a little bit later.
So Saddam Hussein's interview has been widely publicised here. How do you think the White House has reacted to it?
Well, it's caused a lot of controversy. It was brought up at the White House briefing, and the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, had one thing to say: Saddam Hussein is a liar, and you can't believe anything he has to say. The message really from America is incredibly simple. Saddam Hussein has to prove that he is telling the truth. And as far as everyone here is concerned, certainly in Washington, they don't believe he's gone far enough or done that yet.
Rachel, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for now. A 42-year-old British man has been executed in Texas after 16 years on death row. John Jackie Elliott was found guilty of raping and murdering a teenager in 1986, while still on probation for a separate murder. His lawyers had launched a last-minute appeal to spare his life, claiming DNA tests would prove his innocence. Detectives will return to the North Wales town of Mold today in an attempt to solve the shock murder of postman Paul Savage. The 30-year-old, a husband and a father, was found unconscious by his bike yesterday morning. Detectives say he may have been the victim of a bungled robbery and are searching for 2 men seen in the area at the time. Brighton's famous Palace Pier is to be checked for structural damage after an overnight blaze that forced the evacuation of dozens of people. It's believed the outbreak completely destroyed one funfair ride and damaged 2 others. No one was injured. Only 5 weeks ago, part of Brighton's West Pier collapsed in rough seas. Hundreds of nurses are helping terminally ill patients to die, it's been claimed. A poll by the Nursing Time has revealed that 1 in 20 nurses think that their colleagues do assist patients to die, despite an overwhelming belief that existing laws preventing such actions should not be changed.
Surrounding this area would make life more difficult, and the current practice whereby we're actually talking about pain relief rather than assisted suicide allows patients to be treated with dignity at the end of their lives. And even if the end of their life comes slightly sooner, it is not about legislating against helping people to commit suicide. That's a completely different issue.
Rock star Courtney Love has been cautioned by police after an alleged air rage incident. The American singer apparently abused staff on a Virgin Atlantic flight from Los Angeles yesterday and refused to sit down as the jet landed at Heathrow Airport. She was arrested on touchdown and detained for 9 hours. It's 8 minutes past 6. I'm back in half an hour. Now back to Penny and John.
You stop.
OK. Thank you very much, DK. We're just having a discussion about what comes next. I'll tell you what comes next. Coming up on the News Hour, the other side of the refugee crisis, how some communities in Britain, anyway, have welcomed asylum seekers. But first, we'll have a look at the morning papers.
And I will start those. Let's have a look at the tabloids first. And that's the front page of The Sun, apart from Wyn Kylie's knickers. It's Jacko kids at risk. Actually, the Daily Star's got that picture. Even bigger, would you believe? The Daily Express. Mortgages at the cheapest ever rates, they claim, as experts signal a cut in interest rates. The Daily Mail. Commons lords it over Blair. That's about the upper house reform. MPs inflict devastating defeat on the Premier, the first since he came to power. And that's the front page of the Daily Mirror. That's obviously about Tony Blair and his meeting with the French President Jacques Chirac, who refused to support war on Iraq, but also then saying his own MPs snub him over Lords.
House of Lords featuring very much on the front page of the broadsheets too. This is The Guardian. MPs reject all options for the Lords. In the Daily Telegraph, Blair's reform of the Lords left in tatters. That's that one there. House of Lords reform in chaos, says The Independent. Financial Times concentrates instead on the US and issuing bleakest warning yet on North Korea. That's Richard Armitage, Deputy Secretary of State in the US, who was talking about that yesterday. And in the Times, French demand for more time on Iraq. Futile is their headline. Well, compelling proof, that's what the US Secretary of State Colin Powell promises when he addresses the United Nations on Iraq today. It's expected he'll produce satellite photographs and intercepted phone conversations showing Saddam Hussein does have weapons of mass destruction. In an interview for Channel 4 News, the Iraqi president denied this and claimed any war would be motivated by oil.
Iraq has no weapons of mass destruction whatsoever. We challenge anyone who claims that we have to bring forward any evidence and present it to public opinion. The destruction of Iraq is a prerequisite to controlling oil. That means the destruction of the Iraqi national identity.
Well, joining me now here in the studio is Abdul Bari Atwan, editor of the London-based Arab newspaper Al-Quds. Abdul Bari, very good morning to you. He denies that he has weapons of mass destruction. Do you believe him?
Yes, I do. I do believe him, simply because the inspectors are there for 8 weeks. They actually inspected more than 400 sites. We were told by Tony Blair and by President Bush that he has weapons of mass destruction. They have proof. And when they went there, we found out that they don't have any proof, and the inspectors were free to inspect wherever they want to inspect.
But you know the allegation, don't you? The allegation is that he simply shifted them before the inspectors got there, and he's lied before, he's probably lying now.
Well, actually, if they know these proofs, I think, the logical thing, they should present it to the inspectors and go and tell them, go and catch him and find out the smoking gun, as they say. Why they kept this proof for themselves? Why don't they give it to the inspectors in appropriate time in order to actually quote him?
Why, on the other hand, would Colin Powell go before the UN, show them satellite photographs, reveal transcripts of phone taps? Why would he take a risk like that if he didn't think he was on solid ground?
Because he's desperate. You know that public opinion, the European public opinion, Arab public opinion, international public opinion is against this war. So he's desperate to prove anything. But this evidence, I would like to remind you, John, that during the Gulf War, you remember that duck they told us, which was covered by oil, crude oil. They said this is in the Gulf, and this is the work of Saddam Hussein when he flooded the Gulf with this crude oil. And we discovered that it was in Alaska. You remember also the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador who pretended she was a nurse, and she was crying. Saddam Hussein is taking those children from the incubator and throw them in the floor. And Amnesty International has to apologize. The third thing, that when President Bush the senior, presented pictures of satellite pictures showing that Saddam Hussein massing troops to invade Saudi Arabia. And after the war, we discovered it was fabricated. So this could be the same.
But this time, I mean, there's no doubt about it. There have been big conversations between the State Department and the CIA. I was in Washington last weekend, and this was all the talk of Washington last weekend. Big conversation about what Colin Powell can say and what he can't say. I mean, he is risking not only intelligence agents' lives, he is risking national security by revealing this information today. Surely he would not take a risk like that unless he thought that the evidence he had to show was A, true, and B, crucial for the world to understand.
Yes, that's what they want to say. But also the CIA and the FBI actually disputed Colin Powell's version and President Bush's version about the link between Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden. And they said they disagreed with Congress, with the Pentagon about these kind of things, and they warned the administration that they should not go that far. So it seems the American administration is desperate. They want to launch a war against Saddam Hussein, against Iraq, and they know that the international mood is against this war. So I think out of desperation, they can do anything. I told you 3 examples that they presented faked, distorted evidences in order to deceive the international community, and they managed to do so. But that last time they managed to get away with it, but this time they would not, simply because 80% of the public in this country against this war. The same thing in France, the same thing in the United States. So it will be catastrophe for the United States, for the West, for everybody, because the outcome will be devastating.
There we have to leave it. Abdul Bari Atwan, thank you very much indeed for coming to talk to us.
Time is 14 minutes past 6. Still to come on the news hour, the other side of the asylum argument. We see how some communities here welcome refugees with open arms.
And in the latest in our Up Sticks series, we follow one family who've packed up and moved to the other side of the world, and all because of GMTV. Not because they didn't like us at all, but for other reasons. Yeah. Is it?
It shouldn't happen to a mother.
Joanna Sharp is 8 years old, and she disappeared from Sun Hill Police Station.
It shouldn't happen to a cop.
I'm not going to talk to you as a police officer today. I'm talking to you as a mother.
I've seen it so many times.
And we're starting to get wrong.
It feels so different when it's someone you know.
A nightmare that could tear the heart of Sun Hill.
If somebody out there has got my baby, please let her go. Please don't hurt her.
The Bill. Tonight and tomorrow, ITV1.
He's the copper that gets all the rubbish cases.
The last detective, that's what you are, Dangerous. The last detective I'll ever think of, unless it's the bad jobs.
But he's stumbled on a case that could change his life.
I've got myself a murder. They've given you a murder?
No, they didn't give it to me. I sort of appropriated it.
You what?
I'm not going to tell them about it.
Starring Peter Davison and Sean Hughes.
You're a decent man in an indecent world.
The Last Detective, a new series, Friday at 9 on ITV1.
Welcome back. You're watching the News Hour on GMTV. This morning's headlines. A top US lawyer has told GMTV she's filed a complaint against Michael Jackson after the star admitted that children slept in his bed.
America's Secretary of State Colin Powell will address the UN Security Council today, hoping to win over sceptical allies on the issue of Iraq.
Brighton's famous Palace Pier is to be checked for structural damage after an overnight blaze that forced the evacuation of dozens of people. Now, for more of our special series on asylum seekers, you may remember that on Monday we showed you how ruthless French police can be now that the Sangatte refugee camp has closed. We saw them turfing out asylum seekers onto the streets without food or money in extremely cold circumstances. Well, today we're looking at what happens to asylum seekers once they've arrived in the UK. How are they treated and how do they live? Jackie Campbell is in Nottingham. Jackie, good morning.
Good morning, Penny. Yes, today I've got two wildly different stories for you about how asylum seekers are treated once they get here. In a minute, you'll meet the Iraqi asylum-seeking family who live in this house, who've had nothing but the most enormous support from the community. But first, let's go to Wolverhampton, to the Heathtown estate, an estate where 1 in 5 houses is given to asylum seekers and where you'll find people from 46 different countries. And the reaction from locals has been nothing less than hostile. Walk around these grey, graffiti-covered 60s tower blocks and you'll meet people from Bangladesh and Kosovo, Somalia and Zimbabwe. And you'll meet locals, mostly angry locals, who bitterly resent the benefits they feel the asylum seekers are being given.
The government is wasting our money because we couldn't have it, and we can't have his hospitals done now because he spent the money. That money shouldn't be spent.
Where's our people gone? One by one, them driving themselves away, one by one. If you want to give the estate to the asylum seekers, tell us now.
But life for the refugees here is not all easy. These rundown tower blocks can be dark and dangerous places. The Ibrahim family from Albania have been here for 2 years. Little Sarah now helps her parents with their English. They've done their best to make it home, but the paper is peeling and the walls are damp. And with constant aggression from locals, the family are often scared.
Children's pushing the door, you know, night. In the middle night, pushing.
Don't cry, Bean.
After looking the door, after going quick.
What sort of things do they do?
Nasty words to say, and they run away.
Hounded by the press and their neighbours and living in the poorest part of town. It's preferable to being hounded in Albania, but they say only just. Well, that attitude to asylum seekers, sadly, is fairly typical in Britain's towns and cities. But here in Nottingham, something quite remarkable. Take a look at these pictures. We have pictures here of people protesting at the treatment of an Iraqi asylum-seeking family who the government wanted to deport. This family have such enormous support here. They've become such a huge part of the community that the whole community has backed them and supported them and raised thousands of pounds to try and keep them here. Now, this is the family. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
This is the Dowd family. This is Jamil, Sarah. Majid and Hoda, that's right, isn't it? Sarah, you've had enormous support from the community here. They all want you to stay. You must be very happy here.
Of course, I am happy. I'm really happy to feel I have big family as Nottingham community. I'm really happy. They are really my family because they try really hard to keep me stay here. And my ambition is to stay here in England. I'd love to stay in Nottingham.
And now you love it here, don't you? You just certainly don't want to go back to Iraq.
No, I don't want to go back to Iraq.
What's so good about England?
People.
The people?
Yeah.
And what about you? You think it's great too, don't you?
Yeah, fantastic.
Why do you like it?
I've got all my family's here, and I feel that's my home.
Oh, that's really nice. Well, we're going to go into the lounge now and just meet some of the supporters of the family. If you take a look over here, this is Maylie, who actually single-handedly handed over £4,000 to raise money to keep the family here, to stop them being deported. I'm going to talk to some of the other people here as well. Sister Elizabeth, you're part of the family's extended family, basically, here, aren't you? Why do you feel so strongly about keeping them here?
Well, I felt extremely strongly because I got to know the children through Sarah and the English classes and been asked to act as kind of surrogate grandmother. And we've made friends with the children and the family generally and was tremendously distressed at the way in which they were arrested and taken to the detention centre. And they really spent their summer holidays really potentially in prison.
Horrendous, yeah, because they were about to be deported, weren't they, basically, and sent away. Barry, you know, we've seen around the country people being treated appallingly at other asylum seekers. Why is it so different here?
I think what we did early in the stage when the new scheme for dispersing asylum seekers came was to get a voluntary group together, people who wanted to help in a practical way from all sorts of backgrounds, and that's made a lot of difference.
And this family now, you're determined to keep them here. Do you think it's similar for other families around Nottingham? Do you think that they've also got support?
Yes, we have a good network, but this particular family, if you've seen the way they've wanted to adapt to British society, wanted to be part of British society, that's been the key to getting the support for them. People want to help this family to become part of Nottingham, where they belong.
OK, all right. Well, huge support for the family here, and I think they all feel that it's a shame that other asylum seekers around the country don't have similar support. Back to you.
Jackie, thanks very much.
Time now is 21 minutes past 6. Now then, 2 years ago, Kate Garraway pitched up in Perth in Western Australia as part of GMTV's series Where on Earth. There she is telling us all about it. She showed up, showed us a city with perfect blue skies, stunning beaches and almost constant sunshine. But would that persuade you to pack up and move to the other side of the world? Certainly would, and that's exactly what GMTV viewers, the Halton family did. And in the latest of his series looking at Brits living their dream abroad, Richard Gaisford flew to Perth to meet them.
Today I'm thousands of miles away from home, right on the other side of the world in Perth, Australia. Now this is one of the most isolated cities on the planet. You've got to fly for about 3 or 4 hours from here just to get to another big, major Australian city. Today it's summer, the skies are blue, the sun is out, and it's always like this, all the year round. Sarah and Peter Halton moved here just a year ago with 9-year-old Harriet, 7-year-old Tilly, and 5-year-old Max. They sold their home in East Sussex almost immediately, and with the profits bought this 100-year-old home in a suburb of Perth on the west coast of Australia.
Although Australia is a long way away geographically, it's very close to home in a lot of ways culturally, so we thought it would be an easier transition for the kids.
The beach is just a stone's throw away, and the family take full advantage of it.
I'm a lot more active than I used to be, and even walking is just lovely here because you've got beaches to walk on and lovely scenery and no mud. And you don't only see the young people healthy, you see older people much healthier.
The family came here as business migrants, effectively allowed to live in the country if they invested money in a company. They've bought a thriving cafe, and Pete couldn't be happier.
My life here, the job is just so completely different. It's the cafe's run with a manager, so that means I don't have to be here all the time, so I can actually just work pretty much the hours I want to work. In the mornings I can take the kids to school or pick them up in the afternoon. Because the cafe's very close to where we live, it just means, you know, I'm not spending a lot of time in the car, whereas I was in England.
I mean, is this a sport you tried back in the UK?
Yeah, I did a course in Cornwall just before I left, and a bit different to here. It was end of the summer, howling gale, pouring rain, grey sky, you know, huge waves, so I didn't get too far, but as soon as I came here, you can go out pretty well every afternoon.
The children have settled into life here. It took a while, but all are now happy at new schools.
I like all the weather and going to the beach a lot and like being able to just walk out and being able to do things. I also like it because I've started to horse ride and that's really good fun. And,
Do you miss your friends in England?
yeah, I really miss my best friend Amelia and some of my other good friends, and I also miss my granny.
Life in Australia seems to suit the Holtons, but would they ever move back to the UK?
I don't know, what do you think?
You do miss your friends and family and everything, and that would be very easy to go back to, but actually to live on a day-to-day basis in England again, no, I don't think I could do that.
So that's one family that's found its place in the sun and is more than happy to stay. Tomorrow I'll be in Florida, visiting a couple and their cat who've also followed the same quest to leave the UK and trade grey skies for blue.
Gets around that lad, doesn't he?
He does.
Johannesburg.
What did he do to
you
get
know,
all these things?
Perth, Florida. Nice work if you can get it. Anyway, what could you get for your money down under? Well, for just under £80,000, you could buy this townhouse in a stylish northern suburb of Perth. It comes complete with 2 balconies, amazing views, of course, ensuite bathrooms, etc., etc., and CCTV security. Looks very nice.
Alternatively, for £200,000, you could buy this penthouse apartment in the heart of the city with this breathtaking view overlooking the Swan River. That looks like a breathtaking view of the kitchen,
Yes.
but anyway, there is supposed to be a breathtaking view somewhere.
All views of the
there it
Swan
is,
River.
look.
All views of the Swan River are breathtaking, day or night. Take it from us, even though I haven't been there. I think we can guarantee that.
I thought you had been there.
Not to Perth, no. Been to Sydney and
Right.
Brisbane, but not Perth. But I'm sure it's very, very lovely. Details and all that and how you might up sticks on the GMTV website.
Right, guaranteed sunshine in Perth, not much chance of that here at the moment. Although, actually, that's not true, is it?
I don't know. Claire?
Lashings of sunshine today.
Really?
Lashings
Should have
of
been listening
sunshine.
at 6, shouldn't we?
Lashings of sunshine, ginger beer and jelly.
Excellent.
Now.
Winter's here. Quaker Oats, the original winter warmer.
Good morning. Yes, we're going to get some sunshine today. In fact, the same sun as they get in Australia, but a little bit of a different time and unfortunately not as strong, which means it's going to be about 2 or 3 Celsius today, feeling very cold. But over the next few days, it's going to turn milder. For today, there's a lot of snow covering parts of Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Pennine districts. In fact, over the next, 1 to 2 days, that's going to melt. Could cause some problems with localised flooding. We are expecting another front to come in, and that eventually will bring some rain. But the good news is no frost by night come tomorrow night. So let's see what's happening. Well, it's slowly turning milder, cloudy and damp weather moving in from the west. So over the next few days, what will happen is, well, it's cold and frosty at the moment. This morning, temperatures around -3. And then over the next few days, as you can see, warmer colours coming in, and that means it's going to feel milder outside, even though it's going to turn much wetter. So let's have a look and see what's going on this morning. Well, it's really a case of some snow showers this morning. They're scattered affair across Northern Ireland, Northern Scotland, 1 or 2 clipping Wales still, as well as that northern part of East Anglia. Through the day, they will tend to die away, apart from that far eastern area of the country. And as you can see, there'll be a lot of sunshine on offer. Later on in the day, though, that cloud moving in across Northern Ireland, it's going to bring some rain, but as the rain hits the cold air, unfortunately turning to sleet and snow over the higher ground. Now today we are expecting some more snow showers anywhere from Cromer down towards Lowestoft. It's going to feel very cold here, quite a brisk breeze still, but elsewhere inland not too bad at all. Temperatures will be struggling, only up to around 5.41 Celsius, but as you can see it's going to be a dry day and the winds have eased, so we're feeling much better than yesterday. Later on though, we will see cloud thickening across many parts of Northern Ireland, but counties such as Down and Armagh getting away with some brightness until later on in the day. Temperatures today then, as I said, struggling a little bit, but as you can see, less isobars, that means less wind, apart from this eastern strip here. And then for tonight, watch out for a frost in the east, milder coming in from the west. Let's have a look at the summary. Get the full weather picture for your area by visiting our website, gm.tv/weather.
Good morning, it's almost 6:30. It's Wednesday, the 5th of February.
You're watching the News Hour on GMTV. In the next half hour, a top US lawyer tells GMTV she's urging the authorities to investigate Michael Jackson following his controversial admission that young boys sleep in his bed.
And we ask whether a bride should be photographed eating at her wedding. That's at the heart of the court battle between Catherine Zeta-Jones and Hello magazine. More in 15 minutes' time.
But first, the Iraqi President Saddam Hussein has denied his regime has any links with the al-Qaeda terrorist network, heightening pressure on America's Secretary of State Colin Powell, who's due to address the UN Security Council today and is hoping to convince allies of the need for war. Well, Rachel Harrison is in New York for us this morning. Rachel, very good morning to you. What is Colin Powell expected to tell them today?
Yes, good morning, John. Well, a big day at the UN. Colin Powell...
Oh dear, well we have lost Rachel in New York. I think she was going to tell us that Colin Powell will tell the UN Security Council that they have satellite photographs and they have tapped telephone conversations which suggest that Saddam Hussein does have weapons of mass destruction, but as you heard, that is denied by the Iraqi regime.
Let's get this morning's other top news stories from Kate.
Thanks very much indeed. Good morning to you. A top US lawyer has told GMTV she's filed a complaint against Michael Jackson after the star admitted children sleep in his bed. Gloria Orez says she fears children visiting the 44-year-old could be at risk. Jackson was accused of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old boy in 1993 and is believed to have paid out millions of dollars in an out-of-court settlement.
I have sent the transcript of the interview on the British documentary to the Children's Services Department and asked them to interview the children and also to do the needed investigation of Mr. Jackson and what his activities with children have been at Neverland.
And we'll have more of that exclusive interview at 6:45. A 42-year-old British man has been executed in Texas after 16 years on death row. John Jackie Elliott was found guilty of raping and murdering a teenager in 1986, while still on probation for a separate murder. His lawyers had launched a last-minute appeal to spare his life, claiming DNA tests would prove his innocence. Detectives will return to the North Wales town of Mold today in an attempt to solve the shock murder of postman Paul Savage. The 30-year-old, who's a husband and a father, was found unconscious by his bike yesterday morning. Detectives say he may have been the victim of a bungled robbery and are searching for two men seen in the area at the time. Brighton's famous Palace Pier is to be checked for structural damage after an overnight fire that forced the evacuation of dozens of people. It's believed the outbreak completely destroyed one carnival ride and damaged two others. No one was injured. Only 5 weeks ago, part of Brighton's West Pier collapsed in bad weather. Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott is expected to unveil plans to build up to 500,000 new homes today, designed to ease housing shortages in growth areas. The Sustainable Communities Plan will span 30 years and will also include a programme to transform rundown areas in the north of England. Hundreds of nurses are helping terminally ill patients to die, it's been claimed. A poll by the Nursing Time has revealed that 1 in 20 nurses think that their colleagues do assist patients to die, despite an overwhelming belief that existing laws preventing such action should not be changed.
In very tight legislation surrounding this area would make life more difficult, and the current practice whereby we're actually talking about pain relief rather than assisted suicide allows patients to be treated with dignity at the end of their lives. And even if the end of their life comes slightly sooner, it is not about legislating against helping people to commit suicide. That's a completely different issue.
And finally, rock star Courtney Love has been cautioned by police after an alleged air rage incident. The American singer apparently abused staff on a Virgin Atlantic flight from Los Angeles yesterday and refused to sit down as the jet landed at Heathrow Airport. She was arrested on touchdown and detained for 9 hours. It's now 6:33. Now back to John and Penny.
Thanks very much, Kate. Now, can I just draw your attention to something? On the front page of The Sun, right at the top here, you've got Win Kylie's knickers, right? OK, and there's her new range. But I do like this cartoon inside, which actually shows what would probably happen to somebody like me, you see. Yes, What are you talking about? I don't wear Kylie's knickers. These are Kylie's knickers, you see. That's what happens if you don't look like Kylie. I mean, you need a flat stomach. Would you not agree, Miss Garraway, that you need...
Absolutely agree.
That you need
I'm
a
just
flat
so
stomach.
pleased that I've got one, just like that, because
Exactly.
it's a huge relief to me.
Yes, it is, yes. Oh, me too. I was just thinking of other people.
Of other poor souls who might not be so lucky.
Yes, exactly. Okay. We should be so lucky, lucky.
Oh, very good.
Coming up on the news now. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
We cross to LA for the latest on the Michael Jackson saga.
And the bizarre court case that hinges on whether a bride should be photographed eating at her wedding. How awful. You don't have a flat stomach if you eat, do you?
Indeed not. All will be explained in 15 minutes, but time now. You'll be glad to know for the news, weather and travel where you are.
Good morning from the Granada News Centre. Detectives investigating the murder of an 11-year-old girl 27 years ago have revealed they've made a DNA breakthrough in the case. Rochdale schoolgirl Leslie Molseed was stabbed 12 times and sexually assaulted after leaving her home in 1975. Stephen Chapman reports.
Leslie disappeared from her home on Sunday, October the 5th on a shopping errand for her mother. 3 days later, her body was found on open moorland in Ripondon, West Yorkshire. After a major investigation at the time, Stephen Kisko, a tax clerk from Rochdale, was convicted of a murder, but following an appeal he was released from prison in 1992. He died shortly afterwards. The murder investigation was relaunched, and in 1999 forensic scientists experimented with new techniques to generate a DNA profile from samples found on Leslie's clothes.
This brutal murderer could be anybody who has slid into the background and may just be living any normal life now. If you harbour any suspicions at all, please come forward. It's a simple process by which we can eliminate people.
Officers want anyone with information to get in touch.
The hunt's continuing for the killer of a postman attacked as he delivered mail in North Wales. Paul Savage was found unconscious by his bicycle yesterday morning in Clayton Road in Mould. Police are investigating the possibility that Mr. Savage was the victim of a bungled robbery. They're anxious to trace 2 young men wearing hooded tops spotted in the area. The 30-year-old suffered severe head and facial injuries and died later in Wrexham Mailer Hospital. Britain's most famous street has just got bigger with new houses and interiors. Viewers of Coronation Street will now be able to see inside more homes, and the residents of Weatherfield will benefit from a new florist and Italian restaurant just in time for Valentine's Day. The expansion is down to stage 2, a £5.5 million investment which has increased the size of the street set. Let's take a look at the roads this morning. In Greater Manchester, speed restrictions and narrow lanes continue on the M62 between Simister Island and Rochdale. In Cheshire, the A41 in Chester at the Hull roundabout bypass has roadworks which are causing major rush hour delays. In Lancashire, Barbara Castle Way in Blackburn has roadworks for a new link road. And on Merseyside, roadworks continue on the M57, that's between junctions 2 and 4. I'm back with more news shortly after 7 o'clock. Let's take a look at the region's weather this morning.
The local weather with Bounce tumble dryer sheets.
There may be a few wintry flurries this morning, mainly across Cheshire and Lancashire, but these should clear by midday. The rest of the day will be dry with bright sunny spells. The wind will also ease through the day with temperatures reaching 5 Celsius, that's 41 Fahrenheit.
Hello, good morning. You're watching the News Hour on GMTV. The time's 6:37, 23 minutes to 7 on the 5th of February. We're going to have a look at the morning papers right now.
And let's start with The Sun and Jacko Kids at Risk Social Services probe, they say, mad start. The Daily Express, mortgages at the cheapest ever rates. The Daily Mail talks about upper house reform. MPs inflict devastating defeat on the Prime Minister, the first since he came to power, and that's on the front page of the Daily Mirror, along with the fact that President Jacques Chirac of France has rebuffed Mr. Blair on Iraq.
And the Daily Telegraph concentrates on the House of Lords too. Blair's reform of laws left in tatters is their headline. The Guardian says MPs reject all options for the Lords. That's that one there. Financial Times concentrates instead on events elsewhere. The US issues its bleakest warning yet on North Korea, alongside a picture of Deputy Secretary of State Richard Armitage there. And in the Times, French demand more time on Iraq is futile, is the headline in quotes there. Right, now the United States will attempt to persuade Countries that are sceptical of the need to deal with Saddam Hussein today. Secretary of State Colin Powell will present what he claims is compelling proof that Iraq is hiding banned weapons from UN inspectors. Well, in a moment I'll be talking to the Labour MP Glenda Jackson, but first let's talk to Elena Gordon, the Policy Director with a political think tank in Washington. Very good morning to you. Thanks very much for staying up to talk to us. When we say that Mr. Colin Powell has compelling evidence, how compelling do you think it will be?
Well, I think it's important to understand the context for the kind of evidence we're looking for. I don't think he's going to show the earth-shattering smoking gun that some people are looking for, and the reason he won't do it is it's not realistic and it's not required under Resolution 1441. What he's going to do is make an airtight case that under Resolution 1441, Iraq is in material breach of that resolution. And he's going to do it on two bases, and that's where the evidence will come in, although it's not necessary. First of all, under Resolution 1441, Iraq is supposed to fully cooperate with the inspectors. So I think he might show evidence that Iraq is moving things from inspection site before the inspectors arrive, or he might show evidence that Iraq has given orders to scientists to hide information. So that would be one type of evidence. The other criteria in Resolution 1441 for declaring material breach is to show that Saddam Hussein is not providing a full and complete disclosure of his weapons. Now, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to show the weapons themselves. It's kind of like an auditor. An auditor can look at the books of a company and say, you know what, when I do the math, I don't see the cash, but nobody expects them to go find the cash under the CFO's mattress. So it'll be the same thing here. I think he might show, look, this is how we know that Iraq has manufactured weapons, but we don't know where they are, but this is how we know we manufactured them, or we know that he imported these materials that would be used.
Okay, that might satisfy the requirements of the UN Security Council and Resolution 1441, but will it satisfy the rest of the world, particularly people here in Britain who feel that as yet there is not, categorically not, compelling evidence to put thousands of lives at risk?
Well, I think the first question is if we are changing the basis for declaring material breach, then we should ask ourselves why we bothered with that resolution and what the UN means. So then people should be honest and say, you know what, the UN is irrelevant. We're not going to pay attention to the resolutions that we passed, and we're going to say it doesn't matter that for 12 years Saddam Hussein has violated these resolutions. That's an important precedent that we will set, and if people want to make that case, they have to understand that the message we are sending to tyrants, to other countries that are developing weapons of mass destruction, is that the UN does not mean what it says.
But Eliana, if I could just interrupt you for a moment. The whole point for many people in this country is, despite what you say, despite the niceties of these resolutions you talk about, for most people in this country, the US and the UK case seems to be based on very flimsy evidence indeed. Do you not see that?
No, I think you are. The question here is, do you pay attention to what Resolution 1441 said? We've been shifting the goalpost on Saddam Hussein. It is unrealistic. It was never the job of inspectors to go find proof of weapons. Their job, just like auditors of a company, is to show when that evidence does not make sense, when the numbers do not add up, when there's ample evidence that weapons that Saddam Hussein himself has admitted to having that could destroy the world 2 or 3 times over, and now he says, you know, I had them once, but I got rid of them. You should just trust me. I don't have the proof for that. Okay. Is that the basis on which to have an international order?
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've got to leave you there, because if I don't, I'm going to miss Glenda Jackson, who's also waiting to talk to us. Thanks, Eliana, very much indeed for your contribution. The question is, will this evidence be enough to convince some of those who've doubted the wisdom of going to war? Amongst them, of course, Labour MP Glenda Jackson, who joins us now from her home in South London. I don't know whether you heard all that, Glenda, but assuming you did you hear anything that might make you change your mind?
Yeah, the same old smoke and mirrors. It will be interesting to hear what Secretary Powell says today. I personally feel it would be impossible for him to be less uncompelling than our own Prime Minister was in the House of Commons on Monday, where apparently the evidence that we have to go to war to kill thousands of innocent Iraqis is essentially because Iraq has bad roads, important officials are accompanied by minders, and they're hiding documents so different to our own dear country and government.
But you see, the point made by the previous contributor, or one of the points made by her, Glenda, was it's not really incumbent upon us to find this smoking gun. It's incumbent upon them to actually show us that they don't have any, and prove beyond all reasonable doubt that they don't, and that they have singularly failed to do.
Well, that is something for the UN inspectors to place before the Security Council. The UN inspectors' first report certainly showed minor breaches. They are reporting again on February the 14th. If they say that they believe that such weapons are there and are consistently being hidden, then it is for the Security Council to examine whether that is a material breach and whether serious consequences, which in this instance mean thousands of innocent Iraqis being killed, should go ahead. But you know and I know that a deal has been struck between the American administration and the British government to go to war with or without a second resolution.
Well, I have to ask...
Indeed, our own Prime Minister...
I have to ask you,
Sorry.
Glenda, sorry, I didn't wish to interrupt you like that, but I mean, I have to ask you, if that is the case, why do you as a Labour MP and a Labour supporter think that Tony Blair, your leader, has done that?
It is beyond my understanding. I never thought a British government ever would go to war, would engage in a preemptive strike against a country that is offering no real and present danger to our people. That a Labour government should even consider it, let alone, in my opinion, sign up to doing it, with or without a UN resolution, is, for me, incomprehensible.
Well, let me ask you this then. If we actually do go to war without a second resolution or without UN approval, where does that leave you personally and the Labour Party?
Well, I don't think you should confuse the Labour Party with the present government. And certainly I will continue right up to the end to protest what I regard as a transformation of my country, which I always believed worked for peace, believed in international law, from that position to a bullying aggressor. This is not about Saddam Hussein. This is about thousands of innocent Iraqi civilians being killed. And the danger is not just now. The environmental pollution will be so great because of the weapons that will be used that, as we saw at the end of the Kuwaiti war, successive generations of Iraqi children will be born with quite appalling genetic defects. I think we should all up our efforts now to try and persuade the government, whose leader said when he came into power in 1997, his government was the servant of the people, to really step back and think again, because what is being proposed could be cataclysmic.
There we have to leave it. Glenda, thank you very much indeed for getting up to talk to us.
It's just after 7:15 now, 2 days after Monday's amazing documentary on Michael Jackson. He's still making the headlines. This is the front page of The Sun. Jacko Kids at Risk Social Services probe mad start, they're saying there. Could he now face an investigation over his admission that children sleep in his bed? Well, the documentary is due to be screened in the US tomorrow night. So what will Americans make of it all? Jackie Brambles is in Los Angeles. Jackie, what do you think?
I think they'll be as glued to their television sets all over America, very much the same way that people in Britain were on Monday night. As you said, it is going to be broadcast tomorrow night, Thursday night here in the US on the network called ABC. They apparently bought the show, they bought the programme for £3.5 million after a huge bidding war between the major networks. And it's being heavily promoted on every network, on every entertainment show and news programme, that this documentary is going to certainly open the viewers' eyes.
From London to LA, the world is buzzing about that jaw-dropping Jacko documentary on Britain's ITV. As Doug Bruckner reports, the special, airing here on ABC, has the King of Pop spilling secrets about everything, from his intimate experience with a star to his sleepovers with kids.
And as well as public fascination in the documentary itself, it's also opening up something of a legal can of worms over here for Michael Jackson as well.
And obviously the revelations about his relationship with children, obviously it's caused a lot of controversy over here. As I was saying, the front page of The Sun saying Jacko Kids at Risk Social Services are probing him. I understand over there, there's also been some legal wrangling going on.
There has. There's a very well-known, high-profile civil rights lawyer by the name of Gloria Allred, very well respected over here, done a number of high-profile cases, and actually was involved initially in representing the young teenager many years ago when Jackson had those allegations of child molestation against him. That never went to court, and he settled, it's believed to be between $20 and $30 million out of court. Gloria Allred also filed a complaint just as a citizen with the Santa Barbara Child Protection Services after the baby dangling incident in Berlin. And I talked with her earlier today to find out what she had planned after having read the transcripts of the documentary.
I have sent the transcript of the interview on the British documentary to the Children's Services Department and asked them to interview the children and also to do the needed investigation of Mr. Jackson and what his activities with children have been at Neverland.
And she's not kidding. This is a copy that she gave me of the letter that she's sent to the Santa Barbara legal department, along with the transcript of the documentary and the areas that she finds particularly disturbing, which is the talk on the documentary by Jackson himself, which is fairly self-incriminating, because we've always heard rumors, but out of his mouth came the confession, or just the blithe admittance, that he did indeed allow children to sleep in his bed and bedroom.
Jackie, thanks very much. All with me now is a Michael Jackson fan and former impersonator, in fact, of Michael Jackson, Keith Preddy, and his children, Ryan and Aaron. Good morning to you. You actually know Michael Jackson, though, don't you?
Well, slightly. You know,
slightly. How did that happen?
Well, I met him many years ago, basically just performing outside the hotel, and he came out, saw us, had a little chat, hello, I like what you're doing, stuff like that. And that was basically it. And then many years ago, again, similar situation of performing. He saw my youngest, well, Aaron, who's now 12, performing, liked what he did. And one time, actually, we were being squashed at the barriers. Took Aaron, took him in his arms, carried him around. Took him to I met him at Harrods, took him off there in Harrods, no problem.
Yeah, and we've got shots of you meeting the singer there. So what do you think he's like? I mean, did you watch the documentary?
I watched the documentary. Watched many documentaries on Michael Jackson and read loads about bits about Michael Jackson, and a lot of it just really upsets me. Not as a Michael Jackson fan, but as just a normal person who is seeing someone being persecuted day after day without any shred of evidence or any shred of proof, and we're just basically just persecuting him for what reason?
Well, you say there's no shred of evidence, no shred of proof. He actually admitted himself, right, that he has these sleepovers with these children. This is an adult man in his 40s.
That's right.
Who has children who are sort of adolescents in his bed. Now, John Stalker in the Mirror today says everything about him shrieked paedophilia, although there is no direct evidence of it. The excuses, the rationalisations, the pleas of innocent child worship are a masterclass in delusion.
Well, I can't comment on that because I don't read the papers, but...
No, but you saw what was going on.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah. But people don't really understand, OK, it may be in a normal society, people think, oh, that's wrong, right? You don't understand his world and the society that he's been brought up in, and he, at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, he isn't breaking the law, and if he'd done something which you're sort of, or what people are saying that it's a strictly case for paedophilia, whatever it's called, then something would have happened by now. But for him to go...
of course, there was the alleged hush money that was paid to...
yeah, no, but at the end of the day, like, I've got 3 children, and if anybody, no matter who they were, harmed my children, no amount of money would stop me personally persecuting them.
But you would allowed your children to stay over, sleep over, for
example,
and I still would. In Neverland.
I still would.
OK, thank you very much, Keith Preddy, and thank you very much, Aaron and Ryan, for coming in this morning. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And your texts and emails about Michael Jackson have been posted on our website, gm.tv, if you want to have a look at those.
Right now, the time is 8 minutes to 7. You're watching the news hour here on GMTV. Now that it's been dubbed one of the most absurd court cases ever, Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones agreed to sell their wedding photos to OK magazine for £1 million. But their rival Hello magazine managed to get pictures from a whole host of photographers. They sneaked in. This week in court, the Douglases are claiming the wedding was private. Well, in a moment, we'll be talking to media lawyer Simon Smith, who's by my side now, and he wants to see our privacy laws tightened. We'll talk to him about that in just a tick. But first of all, you may remember yesterday, the Daily Mirror editor Piers Morgan made this point.
This case is dangerous because they might well win this, and then what you're going to see, I'm afraid, a lot of celebrities who think it's perfectly acceptable to sell their christening, their wedding, their funeral, anything they can sell, and then claim privacy on the same stuff. You can't do this. You can't have your cake and eat it.
Well, joining me now is media lawyer Simon Smith. Isn't that what they're trying to do, having their cake and eat it? Maybe you don't mind the pun with regard to a wedding?
Well, he's entitled to his opinion, of course, but I think it's hardly an objective one, given the history of his newspaper's approach to privacy. I think what we have here is a case of a private wedding. I know how my wife would have felt if someone gate-crashed our wedding and put photos of her stuffing her face with cake in a local paper for profit. She would be appalled. And it is appalling, and they're entitled to sue. It's a true case of privacy.
But you see, you call it a private wedding, Sam. There's a private wedding, in quote, to which they've invited OK magazine photographers to take as many pictures as they like. All right, with some editorial approval, granted. But are they really talking about an invasion of privacy? Or are they really complaining that this £1 million deal was loused up by Hello magazine?
That's a matter that James Price, for the defendants, their lead counsel, might try and cross-examine them upon. But privacy is two things, as we understand it. There's the basic right to be let alone, which is, in effect, what Naomi Campbell, our client, was complaining about in the first case against the Mirror trial.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but they'd already forfeited that right by inviting in this magazine, hadn't they?
No, they haven't forfeited it at all. What they've retained is a residual privacy right to control by photography and contractual veto the image exploitation that they wanted to see, which was important to them both professionally and personally. And it seems to me that that's perfectly proper and fair. It is, of course, an economic right, not a moral right, and that's the other side to the privacy argument.
But the ramifications of this, I'm not trying to fly a flag for the Daily Mirror or any other popular newspaper, but the ramifications of this for all of us are actually quite immense, aren't they? Because what they're saying is, you know, what they're saying is that newspapers and media have no, if they win it, have no right to go into events like this and record them at all.
Well, that may prove very useful to you one day. You might be on the phone to me this afternoon. With a matter of a private, intimate detail that concerns yourself as a celebrity. You might want me to stop it. What am I to say to you? That I can't do anything about it because you're a celebrity, you've forfeited your right to be let alone, have a private life? It's nonsense, absolute nonsense. Of course, we have to look at how distressed they really were, whether in fact they lost deals, syndication deals and so forth, and that's an argument as to how much they're entitled to in damages. But the liability question, whether there was some wrongdoing, whether there's been on a gut level unfairness that should be punished, is obvious. I quite can't see for the life of me why they're defending it.
OK, there we have to leave it. Sam, thanks very much for coming in. That's just about it from the news. I have something over my right shoulder. It's Penny Smith.
That'll be me here, standing like we should be a Victorian photograph, shouldn't we? Yes, exactly. GMTV today, Georgia Taylor, who plays Toy Battersby and Corrie.
Yes, and Sarah Watmore from Pop Idol fame will be popping in. All that to come, and you can get pictures of us in sequin, if you like, after the weather from Claire.